Hello. You're watching Dish Network's Pirate TV channel. Did you know you're not an authorized subscriber? That's right. I'm speaking to you on a channel that only someone receiving programming without proper authorization can view. So if you're watching me, you're a satellite pirate.
I want my fucking satellite signal!
Danny, chill the fuck out. I'm fucking trying here. It'll be back up in a bit. Calm the fuck down.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And if you were part of the scene back in the day, hung out on the user group ALT.DSS.HACK between 1998 and around 2005, you're going to find this video really interesting. And we're going to dive into the hacks that were done on the satellite cards and receivers that were used by Dish Network, Bell ExpressVu, DirecTV. And you guys over in the UK, this probably applies to you too, since DirecTV used NDS cards, which tied back to Sky TV and Rupert Murdoch's company. So yeah, stick around guys, this one's going to be interesting. And I spent a lot of time and work getting all of this stuff to work again. You'll see. And yeah, that is a Pentium 2 computer to the right. And that one is being used for Jkeys. So, and on the left, yeah, that's a tough book. And we're going to run on that one, NagraEdit, and also BasicH, which was used for DirecTV cards. And down below here, I have various cards, but I've also got this programmer. This was used for DirecTV, and this was a White Viper. I've got right here, this is a Micoboo. And this was used for DirecTV. It was used for H cards, HU cards, and I'm not sure. I think it had an unlooper function. Over here, this is an unlooper that was used. This was a Milli all-in-one, and it could do H cards, HU programming, and also unloop. And I believe the rewiring on there was to unloop HU cards, which came along later on. This guy here is known as an AVR, and it had an Atmel chip on it. This could emulate Dish Network and Bell cards. Yeah. One thing unique about DirecTV's cards was they had an ASIC chip internally. You could never fully emulate the card. However, there were emulators which used the card's ASIC. It enslaved the ASIC and ran, protecting the card, because anybody that didn't do that found out during the Black Sunday ECM where they actually damaged the bootloader in the card. However, there was a fix for that. It was so funny. It didn't matter what the providers did. They did some serious ECMs. Dish Network had one that would damage and rewrite the receiver's TOSOT, but we had an ability to JTAG the receivers and go in there and fix it, and then put digital locks on the receivers so they, you know, it was kind of funny. It was a really cool time to be a part of, because it was a real cat and mouse game, and it was a real challenge, but it was also a lot of fun. And the reward at the end of the day was you got free TV. Well, you were testing, right? Okay, guys, stick around. We're going to play around with all of this stuff and bring back probably a lot of memories. I totally forgot about all this stuff, and I spent about 3 days trying to get everything to work again, and restoring that computer on the right was probably the hardest part. That is a Pentium 2 from 1998. I needed it because of the parallel printer port, which is right there. It's very hard to find a parallel printer port on a computer these days. Just does not exist. But that cable is running to that 301 or 3100 receiver, and we are going to JTAG that guy with Jkeys momentarily. So stick around, guys. A lot of exciting stuff's coming up, and I think you're going to love this. Okay, guys, I've been working hard on this one for you guys. So, okay, get ready, guys. Here it comes. Just gotta love that desktop from 1998. Jessica Alba, the Dark Angel. You guys probably remember her too. Anyways, let's start with the hardware here. And first of all, the White Viper. This was a very basic programmer. It sold for about $80. It was all you needed, and RS-232 hookup to your computer, which everybody had in those days before the USB era. And as you can see, in 1999 is when that socket was made, the 27th week of 1999. So yeah, this is all you needed. This was a very basic, straightforward. It just did RS-232 to TTL to, this was ISO 7816 standard, the chip pinout, which is what the smart chips use on these cards. On the back here, it's known as ISO 7816, and even cards today are using the same standard. However, of course, the chip internally will be different. This one was the Micaboo, and it had dip switches on the back. It was the more advanced programmer. Those dip switches allowed you to set it to do HU. It actually probably says on here somewhere. There we go. What the switches did: HU, H, and flash. I'm not sure if this guy also did on looping. It may or may not have. It may to a certain degree. But this one here was designed by a guy named Millie, and you guys will probably remember him. And look at that, made in Canada, the all-in-one. And this was an unlooper. It had the unlooper ability, and again, had dip switches on it. And I'm pretty sure that upgraded wiring kind of rings bells about being able to unloop HU cards, because the HU, when we switch to those later on, now I'm going to show you the cards. This was an H card, and it's the first card. Well, there was one before it called an F card, and it was hacked quite early on. And of course, you didn't need the card at all. You could fully emulate the card, and there was a device known as a battery card because it had a small battery on it for backing up the memory. And that was a F card emulator. H card came along, and they thought they really got us at that point because they put a chip in here which was called an ASIC, application specific integrated circuit. The ASIC itself was never figured out. What it did is a certain number would go in and a different number would come out. It had some kind of algorithm how it worked. However, it was hardware based and it could never be emulated. However, emulators existed to protect the card that you could run on a PC, and you could then connect the card to the computer, and the card was enslaved by the computer and protected, and it was only using the ASIC. Later on, they did HU, which stood for H update, and these cards got hacked quite fast. It was based on the H card. I believe it even used the same data stream, but had some more security features, but didn't really help. Got hacked, and yeah. So moving on from that, we go over to Dish Network, and this is actually the programmer that was used for Dish Network. It's basically very similar internally to the White Viper. However, the clock frequency, the crystal, is different that it's using. That's about the only difference. You could actually have used a White Viper and replaced that crystal, which was a color burst frequency of 3.579. They used 3.6 something for these cards, Dish Network, Bell ExpressVu. And so that was the programmer there. These programmers, all of them connected by RS-232. So that's another thing. You needed a computer with an RS-232 port on the back, and that's what I've got here, just to make things simpler. And okay, guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use BasicH, which I have over here. You guys probably haven't seen this in a long time. And we are going to play with the H card. Okay, guys, let me set it up, and we'll be right back. Okay, let's start with DirecTV hardware. Back in the day, in 1999, this was the top-of-the-line DirecTV satellite receiver. It was made by Sony, and it was known as the A4. And we can take a look at the bottom of this guy. And there it is, the model number. The SAT-A4 and May 1999 data manufacturer. Really, really cool to see that. Now, this was the remote control used by that receiver, which some of you probably will recognize. And wow, you were the king back then. If you had 500 channels, all the sports, all the movies you could think of, and you had this little joystick down here to flip through all the channels. This was really state-of-the-art back in the day, and very exciting having one of these. It just totally changed. It was a revolution, actually, in television broadcast. Back in the day when digital satellite started and you were getting all of these channels off a dish that was only 18 inches. So next, we are going to look at how the cards were hacked and what it took to hack that card. If you were a subscriber, even not a subscriber, you could just get one of these White Viper programmers, go online and download a script called BasicH, put your card into that programmer, and go over to your computer, and I will show you what you needed to do. You would go in and you downloaded the scripts, and you would have them, let's say, in a folder, and there it is. Now, there was Viata, which was the first version. It was later changed to BasicH. We will run BasicH, and it will load. Of course, we always have to wait. These are slow computers. Now, the ATR was the answer to reset, and that was what you wanted to see first. And not seeing an ATR. Let me see. Oh, we have to read card. I forgot how to use all of this stuff here. Read card info. There we go. Yes, there's the ATR. Answer to reset, and there's the card information. Now the upper state word was 26. That was kind of a low. Look at the spending limit is $10. So now we can totally manipulate this card using BasicH. And one of the things we'll do, you will see, I'm going to update the card. Yes, we're going to update the upper state word, and it will start. You can see the programmer is doing something. The light is flashing. The right light is flashing, so it is writing to the card. Okay, so what it says, it's opening the hole. So these were security holes in the card that were being exploited. Basically punching a hole through, like, enabling update handler. Now you needed to update your card in order for after an ECM, but what they were actually doing with these updates, they were introducing dynamic code. And there was a few people out there that were very concerned about this, and rightfully so, because eventually the dynamic code was used once it was all there to do the Black Sunday ECM. And DirecTV, it was always amazing to me. They spent probably millions of dollars engineering this attack. And ECMs had to be very carefully crafted because it had to only attack and damage illegitimate subscribers or people that weren't subscribed, and not damage their legitimate subscribers. And sometimes ECMs actually did damage legitimate subscribers' cards and receivers. Dish Network had a lot of problems with that too. I'm sure there was people fired on their engineering teams for messing that up because that was very costly to them. So we are still writing here. Are we done? Oh, look, it's adding updates. Wow, it's still going on and on. 22, 23. Yep, yeah, I don't have a lot of patience with this stuff, but it did work. Closing the hole. Okay, so it's done. Now we'll see when it restarts here. Upper state where it says 28 now. So that's how that was done. Now you had other features on here. Wipe pay-per-view. So basically you would unplug your phone line on your receiver. You would, because you had a certain amount of credit here. We could probably add some credit, more than $10. But yeah, it would be holding that pay-per-view purchase like WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan. And, you know, those things were always very expensive. And you could watch it and then take your card and just wipe the pay-per-view. This was something that if you were a subscriber and you just wanted to, you know, not pay for the pay-per-views, you could do that. Some people felt better about doing that. One step clean. Oh, and we could take it back to a particular update. Okay, what is this one? Read EEPROM. Okay, let's try to read the EEPROM. So it's looking at the E3 hole, probing the card. So now it's using these other holes. Reading the EEPROM. So now it's dumping the memory space. Oh, timeout. We have a little problem here. Houston, we have a problem. Anyways, looks like it stopped. But so that's basically how BasicH worked. And anybody could download this from the internet, run it on their computer, and manipulate their card. It was that easy. Put your card back and get free channels. So, and there were scripts that you could download also, patch it to your card and get all the channels for free. So there you go, guys. So we're going to move on now to Dish Network, which is also same hardware was used for Bell, and probably some other providers that used Echostar and NagraVison. So we'll move over to that now. Stand by, guys. Okay, guys, we are now going to start with Echostar equipment, which provided equipment to Dish Network and Bell ExpressVu. This receiver here was known as a 301 on Dish and a 3100 on Bell. I have now the Bell card in the programmer. This is a programmer known as an Akira programmer. And we are going to run something called NagraEdit momentarily on this card, which is going to allow us to access the card and manipulate the card in any way we want. These cards were actually made by a company that provided the security called Nagra, and they are a Swiss company. And they still provide security. They finally figured it out, and their system is secure now with Nagra 3, as far as I know. So here we go, guys. We're going to start NagraEdit up here, and this card that's in the programmer, we are going to access it. And there it is there. NagraEdit is running. And we go here, and we are going to read the card. Now, this is what it's going to do. It's going to break its way in through against security flaws in the card. They were known as holes in the DirecTV cards. Over here, we call them backdoors. And there it is. It's dumping the code space, which is the EEPROM. And that's really what you want to get to. Once you've dumped the EEPROM in a card, it's pretty much game over for the security of the card. The card is now completely compromised. And there we have read the ROM 10 card, the read-only memory 10. And we can go over here and look at the dump. And right at the beginning, there's a very interesting thing that was really kind of weird. Remember the pirate ship on the motherboard that I showed in my previous video when we were hacking the satellite receiver for the hotel? Just weirdness. Again, here we find some more weirdness. Nipper. See that? Nipper is a but liquor. What on earth does that mean, and why is that in there? And it was in all of these Nagra cards. The best answer I ever heard was that Nipper was the name, and actually this is true. Nipper is the RCA dog, that white and black mascot that they always had. And RCA made receivers for DirecTV, which was the competition to, Dish Network. So possibly that's what Nipper is, and Nipper's a butt licker, and dogs do lick their butt. So possibly that's what that's all about, but who knows? But just again, some weirdness that is embedded in there in every card. Nipper is the butt licker. So let's go on, guys, and we're going to go into the data editor. This card was wiped. It's clean. So you will see there's no IRD number, box key. Everything is zeros. But once it was married to a receiver, you would have a receiver number. Now, if it was married by the provider and subscribed, we will be able to extract the box key. The box key is something that was really an interesting feature. It was kind of a security interlock. The receiver itself, in its ROM, has a unique box key, and the box key is only known by the provider. The provider, when they would subscribe the card, would send that same box key to the card, and this card could only work in a receiver with a matching box key. So, that was a security interlock. Down at the bottom there, the public keys 0 and 1, those were the encryption keys that would change, usually daily. You'd have to update those. If you didn't, you wouldn't get any TV. And but eventually, all this stuff was figured out. Scripts were available that would automatically roll keys when they were changing the keys. And they started changing the keys actually like every half an hour. So, and then there's all these other decrypt keys. The EMM, that stood for Entitle Management Module, the keys. Those were how they sent and talked to the card over the satellite securely. Well, not too secure once it was all known how it was done. But that's basically that. You could also do other things. You could add tiers, packages, which allowed you to, kind of, if you were a subscriber, you could just, do certain little things to your card, like add a certain package that you weren't supposed to get. Patches could be done. There were so many different functions that NagraEdit allowed you to do. But mainly, most people use this just to turn everything on. And also a pirate card, that was never even subscribed. Now, if you had a pirate card in a receiver and you didn't know the box key, I'm going to show you how that was done. And things got to a very sophisticated level very quickly. Most of the people that were involved in this scene were actually professional people out there in the world, engineers, programmers, and everybody would get online together thanks to this thing that was kind of new at the time called the internet, and hang out in the ALT.DSS.HACK news group. And that's where really things happened. And, you had a whole army of hackers out there working together for fun, creating all this stuff. And it was an amazing time. And those providers had quite an issue dealing with it. Eventually they got things clamped down, but it took years, and there was card swaps, and I could go on and on. There's quite a history. It was very interesting. And they learned the hard way, but eventually they secured things. So, okay, guys, the next thing I'm going to show you is Jkeys. Stick around. And then came the JTAG Interface, and this was a game changer in a huge way. How it all started was, there we go, that is the pinout and how to wire it up. And that is what you're seeing on the back of my receiver. But it all started with a guy over in Russia whose name was Thomas Vlad. And he was trying to figure out a way of reading the firmware in DVD players so he could change their region code or make the DVD player non-region code controlled. He wanted to find a way of bypassing that, which he did. And those were Panasonic DVD players that he was playing around with. And it just so turned out that the JTAG interface on these Panasonic DVD players was the exact same as what was used on Echostar satellite receivers. And actually a lot of other products. I remember Linksys routers using the same JTAG interface. If you bricked your router with, what was it, DDWRT, bad firmware update, you could recover it, because what the JTAG is it is a direct connection into the CPU. Now the CPU has on board what's known as a diagnostic control unit. And you're directly talking to that diagnostic control unit. So you pretty much have control over everything. It overrides everything going on inside the device. And it was designed basically for the factory to be able to test the device, speed up testing. And JTAG stands for Joint Test Access Group. It also allows for firmware to be uploaded into the memory of the receiver, which became very helpful not only in manipulating the receiver's internal firmware, but if the firmware was damaged by the provider during an ECM because they detected you were unauthorized, you could fix your receiver very easily. And also, number one reason why this was done, JTAGing, was to get the box key so we could either use it with an AVR like this device here, a card emulator, or if we were just programming a card itself that we had that was from a different receiver, we wanted to use it on our receiver. Say we bought a card somewhere on the internet, we wanted to use it, we needed to know that box key. So basically, yeah, you would just plug in and there you go, guys. That's the JTAG interface, and there's the box key of this receiver. And that's all there was to that. Okay guys, we're now going to move on, and we are going to JTAG this receiver to extract the secret box keys. And we're going to use a script called Jkeys to do that, which I remember was created by a guy named Dave2. So Dave, if you're out there watching, this is for you. And the JTAG Jkeys was an amazing feature because it also allowed you to restore your receiver if it was hit by an ECM, because that eventually started to happen too. Okay, so here we go. JTAG a receiver, we're going to power it up, and as soon as the CPU gets power, it's going to allow us to access the diagnostic control unit. And we're going to go over here and we are going to run Jkeys. As soon as I open this, it should read the receiver's memory. And there it is there. And if I zoom in, there's the box key. Just like that. That's all there was to it. The hardest part was actually just wiring in. It was very convenient that they had that hole in the bottom of the receiver. They actually stopped doing that later on because they didn't want to make it so easy for people to be able to extract the box keys. But that's all you needed to do. Once you had that box key, the secret key, you could program that in as AVR here, which was a card emulator, and then take that emulator and place that in your receiver like that. And it just was like an access card was in there, and it would turn everything on, all the channels. Now that parallel port where you would program your AVR, eventually, as things got more advanced, you could leave a parallel printer cable plugged into it all the time, connected to your computer, and it would receive automatic key updates as they changed the keys. Now the keys, there was always two of them, a 0 key and a 1 key. They would roll keys. They would roll between them. They would frog leap. So as long as you had the updated key on your card or your AVR before the key change or the roll took place, you would have uninterrupted TV. So that's how that worked back in the day, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Stick around. I have some behind the scenes of me figuring all this out over 3 days. and also this Pentium 2 computer, which is a real beauty. Again, this is from that era, late 1990s, these Dell towers. Yeah, I'm going to show you the inside of that, and the Pentium 2 processor, which is pretty funny to look at. Yeah, this was an amazing computer too. I remember when I got this, I actually got high-speed internet that day because this computer was ordered with a network jack. It didn't actually have a modem in it. And I got a 1 meg cable modem that day. And this computer, and I went from using, it was a Pentium 1 with a dial-up modem. I went from using that to this computer with a 1 meg modem. And it just totally changed everything. It was a total game changer. So I kind of very sentimentally love this computer. Kind of was life-changing for me. So stick around, guys, and I'll show you the behind the scenes coming up of how I got all this working again and figured it all out. Okay, stick around.
Hello, I'm Brian Olson for Dish Network. If you can see this channel and see me, you need to know that you are breaking the law. This message is being broadcast to you on a channel available only on satellite systems that have been illegally tampered with.
Okay, guys, a little bit behind the scenes. For the last 2 days, I've been trying to JTAG. This is the hotel receiver, as you probably recognize. I've wired into the JTAG interface, and I have it connected to this old Pentium 2 because I need a parallel printer port. And this old Pentium, Dell Pentium 2, has been a real pain in the ass. Runs on XP. And yeah, every time I boot it up, I have to go through a whole bunch of different menus because it's trying to install things, and just to get the mouse to work was a real issue. But I do have it working, and but it is not detecting. So I'm going to try a couple other receivers. I'm thinking this hotel receiver, maybe the JTAG part was disabled somehow. So what I got over here is this was a Model 6000 dish receiver, and it was made by JVC, which was really unusual to see that. Typically, all the receiver equipment was made by Echostar, but yeah, really weird receiver. I did find internally on the JTAG connection, there was already one of these wired up. And that's how a lot of people did it in the day. You just could plug in easily, which is the network connector. And you had obviously a cable that was wired to a parallel port. But there is this little wire here, and that kind of reminds me of something. I remember on some of them you had to ground a particular line on the main CPU chip to get it to go into a write mode so you could program those TOSOP chips. I believe that. I don't really want to program anything. There's no point. I just want to read it just for the history of it all, just to document it. Love to be able to get one of these JTAGing. So I'm going to try this one next. I am currently making another JTAG cable, and that's what it looks on the bottom, and the JTAG pinout. And basically, yeah, you would just take a parallel printer cable, and it's pins 2 through 6, and I think it was 13. That's what those wires are. And you pick a couple other ones that are grounds to ground the thing. So yeah, and what I have here, this is, let me see. You recognize this one as it's a Model 3100. It was also known as a 301 if it was Dish Network. And there's the JTAG there, which you can see has been untouched. And momentarily, I'm going to try also to JTAG this guy. And yeah, so there you go. That's what we're going to do next. Okay, we'll hopefully get one of these working. Okay, so I made up another JTAG cable, and as you can see, it is wired in there. Red, orange, yellow, and this is a light blue and green. and the other two wires twisted together, just grounds. So there you go. And this is a 3100, also known as a 301 if it was used for dish network. I have that now plugged in to the back of the Pentium 2 computer. Look at this beauty. Isn't this wonderful inside? Look at that Pentium 2 microprocessor. Wow, with MMX technology. I mean, the thing, it doesn't even look anything like a microprocessor does now. It looks almost like a big printer cartridge. Anyways, let's plug her in, see what we get here. There we go. Power is on. Green light. Okay, now let's go start Jkeys. See what we get, guys. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Jkeys did. Yes! It's working! Absolutely amazing. Look at this. It's working. Oh my God, guys. Yes, I am so stoked right now to see that actually working. Oh my God. And look at that, it detected it. There is, okay, so this is why this was done. See the box key? That is a secret key, which was unique to that receiver. And the access cards, which were one of these guys, didn't know what the box key was. It was sent by the provider over the data stream to the card because they knew they had some kind of table. They would do a lookup from the receiver number, and I guess Echostar would provide them with what the box keys were. It was very secretive. And the box key was sent to the card separately. And the card could only work with the receiver if it knew what the box key was. It was some type of an interlock security system that they had in place. And it was quite secure until people were able to JTAG the receivers. There was only two ways to get the box key. One was to JTAG. The other was to read it from the card. But the card had to have been subscribed before in order to have the provider put the box key on the card. The other way, which was very difficult, was actually to remove the TOSIP chip from the motherboard in the receiver, and you would have to have the equipment to read it to the computer equipment, which, you know, it would be very high level to be able to do something like that. But that was actually the first way of retrieving box keys, where they were actually removing the TOSIP chip right off the board. So let's see, guys, what can we do here? Just gonna try to hold this. You know, I love to be able to do this with OBS running on this computer, but obviously OBS would probably kill this thing. It's only got 120 megs. Let's see, flash. What can we do? Detect. Let's try that again. That's the same thing. EEPROM programming. Okay. Wow. Let's download it. Can hear my hard drive doing something. Development panel. Save memory. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but it is really cool to see that this is working. Wow, what have I done now? Okay, then we're back to that. Oh, what is this? Save as. Okay, let's save it. What I like to do is just try to dump the memory. Port diagnostics. Flash EEPROM programming. Not really sure how it was done, but you could. Oh, right, there's 2 flash chips in these receivers. So, okay. Save. Not really sure what I'm doing here, but it is working, and that's really cool to see. This is all I really wanted to do. Let's try it again. Let's reboot. And yeah, it automatically detects. So IRD number, see the number there, 37156871. Let's go look at it. Should be on this box here somewhere. Yeah, on the back here. 37156871. I see it right there. So yeah, we are JTAGing this guy. Really cool. Okay, guys, that is really, really great to finally get that working. Been spending quite a couple of, probably 2-3 days on this right now just to get it to do this. That computer was a real pain in the ass to get going and resurrect, but it works. I got it going. So, okay, guys, let's do some card programming now. Okay, for you computer guys, just want to show you what kind of computer this is. It is a Dell XPS R450. This is a Pentium 2 machine, 128 megs of RAM, and we are going to start her up here. I'm just going to show you guys that are interested. A lot of you old guys like the old computer stuff. And we'll come around here. You can see the, there you go. Dell.com, the splash screen. Wow. You're going to see how long this thing takes to boot up and all the problems it has. There we go. Okay, so it's got 1998. This is when this machine, when I purchased this computer, was in 1998. So that makes sense. The BIOS there, the copyright. And so it's a Pentium 2, 450 megahertz processor, 128 megs of system RAM. Wow. And the floppy drive doesn't work on it. It's stuck, so I disconnected it. So that's why we were getting that error. So we will just go over and press the escape key, and it will continue to boot here. Of course, it takes forever. It is running on, there is a Maxtor hard drive inside there. Not sure what the size is, but we can always take a look. It's IDE, obviously. And there we go, XP Professional. Now, this computer shipped with Windows 98. In 2001, it was upgraded to XP Professional. Because, and you know, XP was really when they got things really good and stable. XP apparently was based on NT, and Windows 98 historically had that blue screen of death that just kept occurring all the time. And that's basically why I got rid of it. Welcome. Now, the hardest thing I had problems with getting to work was the mouse. But there we go, look at that. Still got the, I used this computer up to about 2003, and I got my next Dell after that. Yeah, you see the mouse, let's see, yeah, the mouse is not working, and I get this issue here. I don't know why it does that. HID, Human Interface Device. So what I was doing was I would just go over and just, there's 2 USB slots, and it was actually the first time in 1998 I ever saw USB. And this sometimes helps stimulate it because I can't get rid of this stupid screen. Okay, let's just let it do whatever. finish. So is it going to work now? No, it's still not working. Okay, oh, the hub. I have a hub plugged in. It's so stupid, like Microsoft, it's not certified and you have to agree to it. There's probably some legal reason they did that. Okay. Mouse is still not working. Oh, and the mouse is working, finally. Okay, cancel that. We don't want to do anything. And, yeah, just cancel. So, what? Oh, man. These computers back then were just, what a pain in the ass they were. So, okay, now I'm going to plug in down here. This USB stick has got Jkeys on it. Oh, the other thing is the first USB stick I used, it was a 32 gig stick. This computer didn't even recognize it, wanted to format it, and then I realized what was going on. It can't see anything past 4 gigs, right? Because it was a 32-bit system. So I got this old Memorex USB stick, which is 256 megs of memory. And of course, that'll work. So now we can go over here to my computer, and there's the removable, the USB stick, and that has Jkeys on it, just right there. So now let's plug that satellite receiver back in. There we go. And run Jkeys. And there we go. Jkeys is working. Let's try it again. Detect. Oh, there we go. Detect. Look at that. It's different. Okay, well, there we go. We got Jkeys, and showed you the whole boot up sequence, and it's only 6.5 minutes it took. But that's what it takes to get one of these old computers working. And, okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Have a good one.